I don't recall the exact day, but it must have been around February 20, 1977, because we had just celebrated my 10th birthday. I remember Mom had bought me a white dress with a little pin bow. I'll never forget Daddy's face when he saw me coming down the stairs. I was his little princess. That's what he called me. Who could guess that would be my last year together with my family? That night we were all asleep, when suddenly I was wakened by a deafening noise. The first thing I did was open the shutters of my window a little, just enough to see what was going on outside. 9 seemed to have become day, and all at once the house started to shake. I can still hear the distress wail of my mother, who was running from one room to another, weeping, trying to wake up my brothers. At that point I was crying inconsolably. I didn't know what to do. But then my daddy came into the bedroom, kneeled down in front of me, his eyes full of tears, and held me tight. Then holding me arm's length so he could look me in the eyes, he begged me to not be scared and said he will always be there for me. He kissed me and told me to run out of the back door and find somewhere to hide, a neighbor's house. But first, he made me promise not to return to our house under any circumstance. That was the last time I saw my daddy alive. When I fled my room, I ran down the hall to the stairs, and just as I started to go down, I hear my mother shouting, "Paola!" I saw her then carrying Damien in her arms and gripping Fabio's hand, and I ran to them and hugged them. In spite of my young age, I realized that this was goodbye. My mother kissed her index finger and placed it on my heart, just as she always made to show me how much she loved me. Then looked me in the eyes and implored me to run as fast as I could and not stop till I found a safe haven. Then to my parents I survived, but there was many times I wish I died with them on the fateful evening. When I go out the back door, I dug through a small hole in the hedge and ran over to the neighboring house where Dora, a sweet old lady, lived. My mother told me to find some place safe, and her house was the first thing that came to mind. With its ivy-covered rails, I saw the helicopter searchlights wouldn't find me there. But the vegetation didn't stop me from seeing what happened to the others there in front of my house, or what was left of it. My mother was struggling with 2 uniformed men, trying to stop them from ripping my brothers from her arms, all the while shouting for my daddy, who was apparently still inside the house. Suddenly he appeared running from his captors, desperate to help my mother, but he didn't get far before one of them shot him in the back, and my father collapsed on the ground. I recall clamping my hands over my mouth, attempting to not shout out, trying to not break my promise that no matter what happened, I couldn't go back there. I had to keep my promise. He wasn't just my daddy, he was my friend too. And that night, he was there for me, by my side, protecting me as he has promised me before they shoot him down. He had fulfilled his final promise. Next, they pulled my mother away from my father's lifeless body and brutally shoved her into one of the green falcons. My brothers were put in another, and they sped away, the wheel screeching on the road. Lastly, they opened the trunk of the only car left and callously tossed my father's corpse inside, as though it were an animal carcass. I cried myself to sleep there, under the bushes, and the next morning I was wakened by Dora, who covered me with a blanket and took me quickly inside, terrified someone will see me there. I remember how my body was shaking like a leaf, my pajamas soaked through from the drizzle of the night before. Dora hid me in her house for a few days, until she was sure no one was coming back for me. Then we started the search for my grandparents. I still to this day remain hopeful that my mother and brothers will return home. Damian was only 11 months old and Fabio was 2.5. It's possible someone took them and they got no idea about the events of the evening. They were so young at the time. When I wake up, I was in a pool of blood, and the pain left me almost unable to breathe. I cried and banged the door, begging them for help, but it was a waste of time. I spent the night there alone, and when they come for me in the morning, my baby had already died. When they saw the mess, they forced me to clean up the blood, in spite of the pain I was seeing. Then they took me back to my cell and left me there for days. I had no appetite or will to do anything. I thought I would die. My cellmate begged them to bring me a doctor, and they finally had success. I spent a few days at the infirmary, floating between life and death, with a terrible infection that left me sterile. Juan and that child were my world, and they've been ripped from me, ripped from my side. The military junta left me a zombie, the living dead, with scars that were never to heal. The whole neighborhood was celebrating, dancing in front of the houses to the rhythm of music, enjoying the special day that symbolized peace and love. Ironically, for many years this day didn't exist for thousands of people. They didn't have the chance to get together with their families and celebrate. And luckily, all of them spent it on the dirty floor of some place, tied up and blindfolded. For them there was no hope of a new year. The only way out was death. While the rest of the population was dancing and celebrating, they wept in silence for the loved ones, who could never have the chance to see them again. How can this be possible? All this year people have ignored what was happening around them. I wonder what kind of human beings will orchestrate such barbaric massacre, crucifying so many families. Perhaps they are not parents, brothers, or children. Julia, may I ask you how you met her? Asked Kevin. I met her one night when the guards opened our cell doors and threw her in with us, like a bag of garbage. She was so scared, poor thing, trying to not cry in case they hit her and come back. I got up and held her. At first she pushed me away. In the darkness, she didn't realize it was someone trying to help her. Julia seemed to have been transported through time, her gaze lost in memories. It was obvious she'd never be able to forget what she'd been through while in captivity. It will stay with her till the bitter end. It wasn't until the next day I realized she was pregnant. She was so skinny and small, you had to look twice to notice. From that night on, we were inseparable, sharing our fears, our dreams, praying together that a living hell would end. Poor Julia had to stop every now and then to recover before she could go on.